time to introduce our guest speaker, which is not a hard thing to do at all. It is sometimes a hard time to get him to be the guest speaker, however, because as you can imagine, he's in great demand. And thanks to Wynn Skelton, our Executive Director of the Society, and Pat Kane, who's our chairman for Founders Day, who did a lot of background work with the superintendent's staff, we were able to get him here tonight, and it certainly is our great pleasure and great honor. General Hagenbeck is a tremendous soldier, scholar, and athlete. His bio is in the program, and I won't review that. I'll just underline the fact that he commanded a division in combat. He commanded a multinational force in combat. And what greater experience or background could you have to serve as an example for our cadets? Please join me in welcoming General Buster Hagenbeck.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. I really am pleased with it. It's an incredible crowd. This is my 7th or 8th Founders Day already. Judy and I started a couple of weeks ago out in China. We've been working our way back from the Orient, coming across the country. But this is one of the finest West Point societies that we have. Probably, I don't want to be quoted as saying the best, because I'll take it from some other societies, but it's absolutely extraordinary. So thanks for being here tonight. A very eclectic group as you look at it, from graduates from the 1940s all the way up to 2008, former superintendent down here, Dan Christman, and you've heard all the other VIPs have been introduced, but in my view, all of you are VIPs for being here tonight. I've got a bunch of slides that I'm going to take you through, about 3 dozen. If I see you nodding off, I'm going to just start talking and make stuff up, and you can challenge me later as we get into this sort of thing. So before we get off this first picture, I just wanted to point out, that's the brand new library in the background, Jefferson Library. I point that only because I have a lot of classmates sitting out here in front of me, and Jack and others don't know where the old library is. It's actually on the back side, Jack. And when you come up, we're going to take you inside there. Don't get the shakes, but we'll show you that when you see it. Next slide. So here's what we're going to talk about. Things that have changed really since 9/11, if you will. What's remained the same. Talk about those things you're already familiar with, from academics to athletics to the military domain. And then we'll talk about some of our graduates in particular. But what we all stand for is underlined by that mission statement. And the mission statement the verbiage has changed in some very subtle ways over the years. But it's all about producing leaders of character for our Army and for our nation. And we do that in very small and large ways. And we see it every single day, and we'll point some of those things out for you. Let me talk about a couple of things that have come up just in recent years, literally since I've been there. Let me talk about the branding of West Point. Let me give you a couple of facts and figures. If you believe the surveys that the Army conducts, 9 out of 10 people west of Mississippi know nothing about the United States Military Academy. Nothing. They kind of resonate a little bit when we talk about West Point, but they don't know what West Point is. I told the story today to a graduate, and here was one of my experiences when I first came in. Boone Pickens came up, but in August of 2006, I've been in the job a very short time. He spent a day or two, wanted to help us out with writing a big check. When he's getting ready to go, he turns to an association graduate guy, unbeknownst to me, and said, "I would like to take back a West Point sweatshirt." As he's getting ready to leave, walking out the door, our AOG guy hands him a sweatshirt, and he looks down and he goes, "What's this us stuff? I want a West Point sweatshirt with this." And that was the first time the light went on for me. So what we're going to do is we're going back. We've already begun this in a very large way. And I tell you that. So if you have a bunch of logos that say USMA or U.S. Military Academy, keep them, but buy the new stuff that says West Point. And it's not new. If you go back through the Kinsey Center and you look at our Hall of Fame athletes, if you will, back pre-mid-80s or so, you'll see most of the jerseys say West Point. And I can tell you that it resonates both domestically and internationally and it's very important to us, because I'm going to come back to the reason that's important. It's all about getting young, quality candidates coming to West Point, and we're doing very, very well thanks to societies like this. Next slide. What else has changed since many of you have been back to West Point? Facilities began really, again, under General Chrisman, but during the 2001 bicentennial. And as we went through all of this, you can see some examples that are up there now. Shea Stadium, where our track and our Sprinter 150 teams are located. I mentioned Jefferson Library down in the left-hand corner. When you come back, I invite you to come in during official times when home grads can come in, and come up to the 5th floor, the Al Haig room, and it is the most magnificent panorama that you will ever see, unless you're flying by in a helicopter. And most of you have not had that experience before, and I invite you to see that. The indoor football facility, largely funded by Bill Foley from the class of '67. The NFL scouts will tell you that it's the finest indoor facility in America, and it is truly spectacular. We use it not just for football when they're in season, but other sports as well. In the bottom right-hand corner, the Anderson Rugby Complex, probably the best in the nation, and it does make a difference. Our men's and women rugby clubs are ranked in the top 4 of the nation, and will compete for that championship here in the fall. And by the way, women's rugby beat Navy last week 22-20. Next slide. So thank you for all that. You know, the cadets that are here, we've got about a half a dozen with us here this evening. We have some incoming cadets, about 30 or so with us this evening. And what I'd like to remind people about, it is the cadet experience, but it is more than just throwing that white hat in the air. It's really that picture in the upper right-hand corner. It's all about being commissioned in the United States Army, and that's what we're all about. And I'm going to tell the story about how we have continued to evolve over the years to make sure we have the very best products for our Army. I would tell you that the graduation rates continue to climb. Last year's class graduated 81.5% that started 4 years prior. If you go back to the 60s, graduation rates were between 62 and 65%. So what's the message there? As I told the candidates earlier this evening, we're all about helping them be successful. And it's not about attrition. As many of us in the old days, you come in with 1,000 or 1,100 wonderful youngsters across the nation, and we would take the approach, let's see how tough you are. You're all about the same. Take a deep breath, hang on by your fingertips, and we'll see if you can make it through this over the next 4 years. Well, that's kind of dumb when you think about it in retrospect. I mean, they have already got those credentials to be successful, and our job is to create the conditions to help them be successful. And if they don't succeed, we want to be able to say it's because they chose to take a different path, or they could not measure up. And we've continued to develop that over time, and I think we're going to continue to be successful. And I thank you for sending these great candidates our way.